Hello, everybody, and welcome back, or welcome if you are new here to my podcast, Reading and Weeping. My name is Julia, and I am your host. And in this podcast, we talk about all things books, all things reading. So I am so excited that you are here today for this episode because it is going to be a good one, if not my best one yet. So if you have listened to any of my previous episodes, you would know that I don't normally sound this giddy, but I am smiling from ear to ear today because I am so excited to get into this topic and talk about the books that I read this week, because I actually finished them about a week ago, but I've been waiting to record this episode to try and gain some composure and sound somewhat coherent rather than just screaming gibberish about how much I love this book so much. But I still haven't calmed down. So you know what? We are just going to get into it. And if you think that today I am going to sound like a sophisticated young woman who gives thorough and intelligent book analyses to you, literally abandon that right now. I am going to sound like a 15-year-old girl who has made a fandom her entire personality, because that is literally how I feel on the inside. Listen to me. I am so excited. I am so excited to talk about these books today. But first, let me just chill for a second and introduce our topic. We are going to be talking today about graphic novels. That is all I will say. I need to cue the theme song to just shut me up. Otherwise, I will be spewing gibberish for a half hour and nobody wants that. So let's get into it. I wanted to start this episode off today with an apology for not mentioning graphic novels in my Guide to Starting Your Reading Journey episode. If you didn't listen to that episode, I basically encourage you to read children's novels, teen novels, young adult novels, but I didn't mention graphic novels, and it's not because they're not valid books. It's because I completely forgot that the genre existed. But looking back, some of my favorite books when I was a kid were graphic novels. Case in point, Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Hello, that book was literally the shit. If you didn't read that book back in 2007, 2008, you were not cool. Everybody read Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Everybody knew what the cheese touch was. The cheese touch was going around at your school. You know it and I know it. Let's not pretend otherwise, because that book was literally a cultural reset. And I loved it so much. I remember it being so funny and so entertaining, and it just brightened my day. I looked forward to reading Diary of a Wimpy Kid or a new one whenever the books would come out. But of course, like any piece of literature that a third grader loved, it was excluded from everybody's reading requirement. We were not allowed to count Diary of a Wimpy Kid on our reading requirement, which is so messed up, by the way. You're telling me that I just read a 250 to 300 page book and you're not counting it because it had pictures in it? I'm sorry, I don't remember a picture book ever having that many pages and taking that long to read. Oh, well, Diary of a Wimpy Kid is actually not academic enough. Oh, so you're teaching me that academic books are books that are boring as hell, that are at a 10-point font, are about somebody in the fucking gold rush or abandoned on some island like Lord of the Flies. No offense, but nobody wants to read those when you're that young. When you're that young, you just want to be entertained. If you can't be entertained from books, you're going to turn to other things to entertain you, like your phone or TV. Why not encourage kids to read graphic novels that are literally harmless? So naturally, the opposite effect is happening, where students are being discouraged from reading because they think, if this doesn't teach me anything, if this doesn't have a lesson to be learned by the end of it, then it's basically a waste of time, because reading's not supposed to entertain me. Reading's homework. It's not supposed to be entertaining, so I'm just going to go play video games instead. Which is so sad, because you're closing yourself off to a world of incredible and unique and enriching stories. and then you just stop reading altogether, and maybe you pick it up when you're in your early 20s like I did, or maybe you just go your whole life without ever reading another book, which is so sad. So pick up that graphic novel because there are so many good ones out there, especially the books that we are going to be talking about today. Oh my God, I am so excited. We are going to be reviewing Heartstopper. I would like to first acknowledge how late I am on the Heartstopper trend. I mean, the books came out years ago, the show came out months ago, but I truly did not know about either of them until Trixie and Katya did a review on Netflix's YouTube channel. If you don't know who Trixie and Katya are, they are drag queens who do a show with Netflix called Queens Who Like to Watch, where they basically react to new Netflix shows that come out and give their commentary on the spot. It is literally so fucking hilarious. Do yourself a favor and look them up right now. But anyway, they just recently did a review of Heartstopper, and I didn't really know what I was getting myself into. I was like, you know what? I might as well read the books. I might as well watch it and review it on my podcast. Trixie and Katya have convinced me, and I trust them with my life, so I might as well try it. When I tell you I spent the entire holiday weekend devouring these books and devouring this TV show, I am not lying to you. Let me just read you the synopsis before I freak out any further. Okay, here we go. Shy and soft-hearted Charlie Spring sits next to rugby player Nick Nelson in class one morning. A warm and intimate friendship follows, and that soon develops into something more for Charlie, who doesn't think he has a chance. But Nick is struggling with feelings of his own, and the two grow closer and take on the ups and downs of high school. They come to understand the surprising and delightful ways in which love works. Oh my God. Just reading that, like, it's so cute. It's literally the cutest book in the entire world. Like, first of all, protect Charlie Spring at all costs. I literally love him so much. And then Nick Nelson, dream man. Nick Nelson is literally a dream man. Oh my God, I love this book. I love the show. I devoured everything within the span of like 24 hours. And my entire YouTube feed is just filled with like edits of the show and edits of the graphics and edits of the both of them together. And oh my God, it's just the cutest story in the entire world. Oh, I love it so much. Okay, let me just get back on my train of thought so I don't sound insane. So the first thing that I really wanted to talk about is the fact that Alice Oseman, she is the author of these books, the genius behind this story. Alice, I love you, girl. I know you are not listening, but if you were, oh my God, you have created the cutest story literally on the face of the planet. You just bring me and so many people so much joy. Anyway, she writes the book and she is also the showrunner for the TV show. And I think that that is so important, by the way. I don't think that enough shows that are adapted off of books, I don't think they include the author in enough, because the author is the person who literally created the entire world, who wrote the script, who built these relationships. And to try and like translate that on screen is very, very difficult. And I feel like the only person who knows how to do that effectively is the author. So I think authors need to be involved more, even if they don't really have like much film or television experience. I think that they need to be involved, at least in the writing and the casting process for sure, because you can tell that Alice Oseman had a hand in literally every decision that was made about this show, from the clothes to the set design to the direction, the casting. Like, everything was perfect when it comes to the graphic novel. I mean, obviously there's some difference, like story-wise, there's a couple different characters, but because all of that still came from the brain of Alice Oseman, it felt like it was just naturally part of the story. And I feel like as well, there are a lot of times when a book is adapted into a movie or a TV show and it looks completely different to how you pictured it in your head. And I think that's where a lot of the disappointment comes from with adaptations. But because this is a graphic novel and everything is drawn out and you can visually see everything, it's so much more satisfying when that world comes to life, because Alice Oseman's influence is truly throughout the entire show and it looks exactly like it does in the comics. It's so amazing. Now I want to get into the reason that I am truly so excited to be making this episode today, and that is Nick and Charlie. Oh my God, their relationship is everything to me. They are my OTP. I told you that I sound like a 15-year-old girl from like 2016. Like, I sound like this is like Twilight. It's not. It's Heartstopper. It's like the cutest show in the entire world, and it's consumed every brain cell that I have for the past like week. Oh my God, I love it so much. But anyway, Nick and Charlie, they are the perfect couple. I want to talk about them in the books and in the show. So let's start with Nick Nelson. Dream man, by the way. He is, oh my God. Oh, in the show and in the book. Let me just get into it. Okay. So I would say the biggest difference between Nick Nelson in the book and Nick Nelson in the show is that in the book, he's a lot more rough around the edges, very much playing into that like jock stereotype. And I don't want to say this in a mean way, but he's kind of like a meathead. I know that sounds really mean, but you know, like those jocks that are just like really loud, like, let's go, like just really loud. That's how I pictured Nick Nelson with like the certain things that he would say. And he would also give Charlie noogies, like friendly noogies. You know how like jock guys are like a little bit more like aggressive in like their certain like physical touches? Like that's exactly what he reminded me of in the book. And he was also like louder and angrier in the show. He definitely had a shorter fuse. And to me, these are the qualities of a stereotypical jock. I'm not saying every jock is like this, hence the stereotypical. But that's just kind of the vibe that I was given when reading this book. Nick was also taller than Charlie and like bigger than Charlie. So that also kind of played into that stereotype a little bit that I was thinking about, was just his build in general. So that's my general consensus about Nick in the book. Now in the show, let's talk about Nick in the show, okay? He is very similar to Nick in the book, but also so different in a lot of very significant ways. I think that this is due to two things. One being Kit Connor's performance as Nick Nelson, because oh my God, it's literally so incredible. I could devote an entire episode just to him and his performance and how he shows the complexities of this character's like inner conflict. Oh, he's amazing. But I also think it is due to Alice Oseman being the showrunner, going back to that and talking about how, you know, she knew how to take out certain pieces of dialogue from the book because she knew that these actors could convey these feelings that they express in the book. She knew that they could express it without explicitly communicating. A great example of this, and before I start, spoiler alert right now, I don't necessarily want to spoil something, but this is so important to the point that I am trying to make, so I have to spoil it. So, the morning after they kiss for the first time, which that scene in itself, I'm going to get into that in a minute because it's so beautiful. It's literally going to make me cry. So I need to stop talking about it now and continue on the point that I was getting at. Anyway, so the morning after they kiss for the first time, Nick just kind of word vomits all over Charlie. Charlie kind of does the same, actually. Like they both just completely like blurt out exactly how they're feeling. And while they do the same thing in the show, it's not to the extent that they do it in the book. So I'm going to give you an example. Here is what Nick says to Charlie the morning after they kiss for the first time. I'm just so sorry I ran away. I was freaking out. Like, honestly, I'm having a proper full-on gay crisis. It's not that I didn't want to, kiss you. I was just so confused. I've just been so confused. And I didn't expect that to happen yesterday. It's not like I didn't want to, but I hadn't really psyched myself up. And then Bloody Sai turns up and I wanted to stay with you, but I didn't want other people to see us doing that. I mean, I'm not ashamed. I just need some time to figure this out. I just need a bit more time. And then they cry into each other's arms, and then you cry and get tear stains on the pages and you move on. But it takes a while. Eventually, they move into the next scene, which is actually not in the show. I mean, some of the dialogue is in the show in like a different part of it. But basically, they are sitting in Charlie's living room drinking tea, very British. This is all British, by the way. Like, you might have noticed when I was reading that, I said, like, proper and bloody and stuff like that. You know, very English, but I'm not going to do an English accent for you because that's offensive. Anyway, they're drinking tea, and they kind of get into this pretty intense conversation that happens pretty quickly. Like, I can see why they moved it to a different part of the show. But Nick basically asks Charlie, he's like, when did you realize that you were gay? And then Charlie's like, I've kind of always realized it. And Nick's like, well, I don't know how you did that because I'm having such a hard time figuring it out myself. And they get into this like really deep conversation. And then Nick does something that's pretty bold. He like leans in and kisses Charlie again. Like, he's so confident in his decisions, which in the show, that's not necessarily the case. And the big difference here in the show is that that whole scene not only doesn't happen, but that whole dialogue that I read you from Nick doesn't happen. He ends on, I was just so confused. He says, it's not like I didn't want to kiss you, but I was just so confused. And then he like breaks down in tears and it breaks your heart in the same way that it breaks your heart in the book, by the way. But the way that it's done in the show, like by taking out the rest of that dialogue about him being ashamed and you know, all of that stuff of how it looks or whatever, you're letting Kit Connor do what he was born to do. And that is act his ass off. Okay. You can see it all in his face when he's like, I'm so confused. And he just finally just lets himself like break down. Like, he has so much anxiety, but like he's also very comfortable, but like he doesn't want to admit it. Like, it's the way that he just shows all of that. I can understand why Alice Oseman took the rest of that dialogue out, because you can see it all on his face, like everything that he's going through internally. And that is where that vulnerability comes in. It's in those unspoken moments where you know exactly what he's going through, and Charlie knows exactly what he's going through, and you can kind of see them non-verbally communicate, and Charlie saying like, I got you. Everything is going to be okay. As long as we have each other, we're going to get through this together, and I'm not going to abandon you because I really care about you and you're my best friend. Like, you see that all in the look that Charlie gives Nick. And I haven't seen an adaptation of a book do it that well. Like, replace dialogue, just having complete faith in the actors to be able to convey what they actually explicitly said out loud in the book. I have never seen it done as well as it is in Heartstopper. Now let's shift gears a little bit and talk about Charlie Spring. Perfect, sweet angel boy, Charlie Spring. Oh my God, protect him at all costs. He is literally the cutest, sweetest angel of all time. I love him. I love him in the book and I love him in the show because they are exactly the same. Joe Locke, who plays Charlie Spring in the show, does the most amazing job of playing Charlie. Like, he is just so sweet and he goes through so much, but he deserves happiness and you're constantly rooting for him to get it. And he's always expecting disappointment, which is literally so upsetting because you just want to give him like a tight little hug and tell him that everything is going to be okay. But also it's okay because Nick gives him hugs. He gives him the best hugs in the show and in the book. Oh my God, I love them so much. Shut up, Julia. Just keep talking. Volume 1 opens up on Charlie's perspective, and he is dating this guy named Ben, who is an actual dick. Like, he is closeted. He just uses Charlie to hook up, and he acts like he doesn't even know who Charlie is. Like, Charlie just tries to be nice in the hallways, and he's like, hi. Ben's like, why are you talking to me? I don't even know who you are. Which, disgusting. Red flags everywhere. I literally hate Ben. And Ben continues to torment Charlie throughout the book. He's like, you're so desperate. Like, why would anyone even want to go out with you? I just went out with you because I felt bad for you because you don't have any friends and blah, 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 blah. Like, he's just so rude to Charlie. I can't even stand him. He's the literal worst ever. but you're able to see like some of the trauma that Charlie has literally gone through, not only from like being bullied, but also just like the gaslighting of this guy that he thinks that he's dating, but he's actually not. And he's being treated like shit. And you just literally hate whoever's doing this to him because Charlie is just this tiny little boy and he's so cute and he's so sweet. And you just want someone to love him right. That's all you want. But even through all of this, Charlie never gives up hope. He is like me. He is a romantic. He immediately, when he meets Nick, he's like, I love this guy. I do. I am respectfully, like, I just want to be his friend. I just want to be around him because I love him so much. It would be so cool if he was attracted to me, but he's probably not. Whatever. I'm pretty sure he's straight. Like, he, like, goes through all of these, like, steps in his head, but he's just such a nice guy. He's just the sweetest kid ever. And it's such a contrast from what Nick sees because Nick is surrounded by, again, stereotypical jocks. He's surrounded by a bunch of tough guys who don't ever really talk about anything. And, you know, they're kind of the worst, you know, and they're homophobic. And that's a whole nother thing. But when he meets Charlie, he's not immediately attracted to him. He's just thinks of him as like a breath of fresh air because he's just so sweet and kind and just pure. And Joe Locke does such an incredible job of portraying that on the screen. Like when he first says hi to Nick and he's like, hi. Oh my God, you start sobbing immediately. And you know, it doesn't help that the music of this show, the score, is literally perfect. It is an added layer that you didn't even know you needed. But now when I read the books, I hear the music in my head, like the dun dun dun. Oh my God. I'm not even going to try and do it for you because I will not do it justice. But that music just makes me tear up and smile at the same time. The music is so perfect. Again, Alice Oseman, she just knows the world that she has created and she knows exactly what to put in it visually and audibly. She's amazing. Anyway, let's continue. But yeah, you immediately fall for Charlie and you just want him to be happy because he literally did absolutely nothing to deserve the kind of treatment that he gets from just the school bullies and from his own literal boyfriend in the beginning. I don't care if Ben doesn't want to call them boyfriend and boyfriend. They are. Sorry. So when Nick starts to fall for Charlie, as the audience, you're immediately on the defense. You're like, I do not want anything else bad to happen to Charlie. He doesn't deserve it. He doesn't deserve to be manipulated and gaslit into thinking that nobody loves him. Like, I really hope that Nick doesn't do the same thing. Like, how do we know that Nick is not Ben? But then at the same time, you get to see Nick's character and you get to see everything that he's going through internally, like trying to figure himself out and figure out all of these new feelings that he's never felt before. And all of these questions that you have about both of these characters, like, is it going to be okay if they get together? What's it going to be like? Like, how are they going to keep it secret? What's going to happen? Like, how is this dynamic going to work? All of those worries melt away in the first kiss scene, and I will tell you why. It is written so beautifully. I'm going to read it to you. I'm going to read it to you because you deserve to hear it. You deserve to hear it and cry. Thank you. So let me set the scene for you. Nick and Charlie are at Nick's friend's Harry's sweet 16 birthday party, and he's like this rich kid, so he rented out this whole hotel to have his sweet 16. Nick and Charlie sneak off at this party, and they're in a room alone, nobody around, complete privacy, okay? This is the conversation that leads up to the kiss in the kiss scene. Charlie says, so, like, was Harry being serious? Do you like that girl? No, definitely not. We kissed at a party when we were like 13, and I liked her at the time, but I've honestly barely thought about her since then, and I definitely don't like her that way anymore. Ah, okay. So you don't have a crush on anyone at the moment? Well, I didn't say that. Well, what's she like then? You're just gonna assume they're a she. Are they not a girl? Would you go out with someone who wasn't a girl? I don't know. Maybe. Would you kiss someone who wasn't a girl? I don't know. Would you kiss me? Yeah. And then they kiss. Oh my God. You should see this scene materialize in the show. It is quite literally one of the greatest kiss scenes I have ever seen on TV or film. Like, the way that it is written is so incredibly beautiful. Whoever says that graphic novels aren't real books because they're like pictures and they don't have real writing, you have never seen a scene like that, and you are missing out on scenes like that that are written so beautifully. The way that it's done in the show, it's pretty much the same. There's like a couple lines of dialogue that are different, but again, a lot of it is like unspoken communication. And what I really love about that scene is, like I said earlier, it takes all of your fear as the audience. It takes all of your fear and worry away because it establishes that they just like each other. That's all it is. Like, taking away all of like the societal pressures and the past relationship trauma, they just like each other. That is all it is. And they realize it in that moment. Because when Charlie asks him, would you kiss someone who wasn't a girl? And he says, I don't know. He's being completely 100% honest in that moment because he hasn't figured out his sexuality. He doesn't know if he's gay or straight or bi or anything in between. When Charlie asks him, would you kiss me? And he says, yeah. He's also being 100% honest in that moment because while he doesn't know his sexuality and he hasn't completely figured himself out yet, he knows what's real. And that's that he has feelings for somebody and that person likes him back. Like, that's literally all it is. He's going to figure out the answers to those existential feeling questions eventually, but he's not going to waste this special connection that he has with somebody in the meantime. He's going to seize the moment and act on those feelings because, I mean, for the love of God, like, being human is hard enough, and all any of us really just want is to be loved. So Nick and Charlie are seeing that opportunity and they take it. And of course, they deal with their own sets of challenges as they kind of navigate their relationship. But they always choose each other. They always fight for each other. And that's what makes this relationship like so pure and sweet because they're just navigating like having a crush on each other and like being in a relationship for the first time and like going on dates. Like, it's just so pure and so cute and so sweet. And I think that's what people love so much about Heartstopper. Like, not only does it have adequate and positive queer representation, it's a show that exists to just simply make you feel good. I haven't read or watched something in recent months that's made me feel like this giddy and warm and fuzzy. And I'm a hopeless romantic, so that is saying a lot. But I can read these books over and over and over again, still cry the same tears, still silently scream to myself in the middle of the night because it just makes you feel good. I don't know how else to explain it other than that. And it's not just Nick and Charlie who make you feel this way. I mean, going back to the adequate and positive queer representation, you have Tara and Darcy's relationship and how they always choose each other and they're always fighting for each other and loving each other. It's so cute and it's so sweet. And then you have Elle, who is going to a girls' school for the first time after transitioning, and she's having a positive experience. Like, how refreshing is it to not see a trans girl literally go through hell? She's just like making friends with Tara and Darcy and like living her life and having a good time. Not saying that she doesn't go through her own struggles, but just seeing her and seeing all of these other characters just live their lives without having to tackle any like macro or political issues. Like, they're kids. You shouldn't have to tackle that in a show like this. You should just be able to show them living their lives. And that's exactly what Heartstopper does. And it does it right. And God, this show is just so good. I cannot wait for season 2. Like, you literally have no idea. I am so excited for it. I only read volumes 1 and volume 2, so maybe all of these characters do go through hell in the next few volumes that I have yet to read. But I'm going to read those and then come back for another episode when season 2 comes out and review it again, because I will never stop loving this show. It's so good. I am obsessed with it. I don't even care. I'm obsessed with this story. I love it so much, and I love these characters so much. Also, if you have listened thus far and you're still not convinced to read these books or watch this show, Olivia Colman is literally in the show. She plays Nick's mom. She's in maybe 4 scenes throughout the entire thing, but every single one is absolute perfection. She's like one of my favorites. She can do funny, she can do dramatic. She's incredible in this show. So if anything, watch it for her and you will not be disappointed. As a matter of fact, you will be pleasantly surprised, because she's so great in this. Oh, just thinking about her is like making me cry as well. Oh no. Okay. I'm just going to end this episode here. I am so sorry. That was either my best episode ever or my worst episode ever. Either way, it was pure chaos. I was all over the place, but I really appreciate you listening if you've stuck around this long. This is probably the episode that I've been the most passionate about thus far, and the story that I've been the most passionate about thus far. So I am truly grateful for you listening. I hope that I convinced you to read Heartstopper or any other graphic novel for that matter. And if I brought up some trauma that you did not know you had from somebody telling you that a graphic novel isn't a real book, I hope you acknowledge it, and I hope you process it and get over it and go out and get a graphic novel and read it, because you deserve to be entertained and proud of yourself for reading a book. So with that said, I am going to close out this episode with the quote that I have been reading lately by C.S. Lewis, which I think is especially fitting for today's episode. No book is really worth reading at the age of 10, which is not equally and often far more worth reading at the age of 50 and beyond. Thank you so much for listening, everybody, and tune in next week because we're going to have another great episode. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye.